Tiny House Prepper.
Live simple, live free.
Hi there again, everybody. I'm Bill.
And I'm Elizabeth with Tiny House Prepper. And welcome back.
Welcome back. This is part 2 of how to start prepping. So if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, don't start here.
Try to start on part 1 if you can.
We'll put a link up here for you to go back to part 1 if you haven't seen that. We basically, in part 1, we talked about food, water, shelter, and solar. And kind of an overview of how to start planning.
Right. Yeah, how to think about being able to figure out how you need to prep.
Right.
And we told you to get a piece of paper and a pencil, and this is where we really are going to start getting down to just some ideas and details.
Right. So we want to start with, well, first of all, everything in your house, whether you realize it or not, is a system. Or
Yep,
you might think
is.
of it as a category, but we think of it as a system.
Right.
So we talked about the food. Now you've already hopefully got, plans for food storage. But what I want to talk about now is the kitchen system,
Right.
which is not food storage. It's how do you prepare your food? How do you cook your food? How do you keep it any leftovers? How do you clean your dishes? That sort of thing.
Yeah, anything that has to do with food preparation, and yeah, you're right.
Right. So first of all, how do you cook? The most basic thing, right? If you have an electric stove in your house right now, it's probably not going to do you any good. If the power goes out,
if the power goes out, right.
It won't do you any good.
Right.
So what we have, and I mentioned this earlier, but what we have is a propane stove that it's got pilot lights, so it doesn't need electronics to start, or of course you can light it with a match or a lighter. We have enough propane stored out back for probably at least about a year worth of cooking. So if it goes more than a year, we're going to be in trouble anyway.
No, we won't. We'll be cooking on the wood stove.
Well, that's true too. Yeah.
Or outside on what we call a rocket stove,
Right.
which we talk more about that. But.
So, but if you have propane or natural gas and you live in a city where it's out in the street and it comes through the pipes, I don't know whether that's going to continue, whether that'll be available either if the grid goes down. But we live sort of out in the country and we have our propane stored in tanks out behind the house, so we got it covered there.
Well, just think about what would you cook on, you know. And like I said, once again, knowing that we can fall back on the wood stove is a good thing to know.
We got the wood stove here, but we wouldn't want to cook in that in the summer because it would be overwhelming hot in here if we had to cook it in summer. So in the winter we got the wood stove we can cook on. In the summer we can do a rocket stove outside, which is basically a way to start a fire, but keep it about this big.
Yes.
And start it.
And I don't know, we're going to be definitely showing a rocket stove.
In a couple of weeks I plan on, we're going camping next weekend.
I'm so excited.
And while we do that, we're going to demonstrate a rocket stove and how you can build one yourself out of a few bricks very cheaply, and how well it works.
Yeah, so that you always have a way to cook.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that rocket stove video in a couple of weeks where we show you that.
And also, we've been seeing some videos online of like solar stoves that you can get.
Yeah.
And I think those are well worth checking into.
Solar oven.
A solar oven, but still,
kind of like cooking in a solar-powered crock pot, sort of.
But still, I think that's worth looking into.
Right. So, where are we here?
We're in the kitchen right there, cooking.
Okay.
So we're organized here.
Okay.
Cooking. Okay.
So, as I mentioned in the last video, when we talked about solar, we don't have solar at this point. Not because we don't want it, but we're just putting our money into other things that are bigger priorities. Eventually we'll get solar, but for right now that we don't have it. So that means that we use all kinds of mechanical things, old school things, instead of electronic type stuff in the kitchen if the power goes out.
Right.
So, do you have to use this? Or can you use this on the wood stove? Do you have to use this? This is an electric can opener, by the way. Or can you use this, the crank can opener?
Now, do you have to use this? Or can you use this? I love this thing.
Do you have to do this? Or can you do this? You also have to think about things in the kitchen like dish soap. You know, it's pretty hard to wash greasy dishes if you don't have any dish soap that'll cut the grease.
And if you want to get something that's like biodegradable, is it going to be a problem if you know, depending on how you want to set things up for what we call gray water? I mean, there's a lot of issues with all this, but are you set up to be able to clean your dishes?
Right. And how much soap do you need? Do you have any idea how long a jug of dish soap lasts? Well, if you use a dishwasher all the time and you don't hand wash, then you probably don't have a clue.
Right, right.
But I don't either because we use a dishwasher.
Yeah, we got to check into that, sweetheart.
Yeah, but one of the things that you need to do all through the house is pay attention to what you're doing and how long it takes and how much you use and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Wash dishes for a while and see how long, by hand, and see how long a jug of dish soap will last you.
Right. And like I said, there's just, you know, if you want, just stock up on a whole bunch of tons of Castile soap or something like that because of the multi-uses you can make out of it. And then just use whatever little bit that you need just so you can kind of keep things clean. Things like a wind-up timer that doesn't require electricity. If you want to be able to cook with it, a timer can be really helpful. Get one that winds up, just like wind-up clocks. You know, we're going to be talking more about that, but something that you can wind up. Do you have recipes? You know, of course, we're going to really be, I mean, if you don't know how to cook, I'd recommend starting to have some fun doing it. Just take a little bit at a time, find some recipes. There's tons out there. We're trying to share some ourselves. There's lots of wonderful recipes out there, and learn how to prepare some things and have fun with it and get used to it. I want to also say that we use cast iron. We are probably going to be doing a how to take care of cast iron thing pretty soon here. It's not as complicated and difficult as people often feel that it is. I have cast iron that was my grandmother's, and I'm 60, and it's still as good as ever. And so one of the reasons that I really recommend something like cast iron is that you don't have any finishes that are going to wear out like a Teflon pan that ends up so worn out and you don't know how to replace it.
Right.
And it's also very easy to clean without having to use a lot of soap.
Right. In fact, you shouldn't use soap when you clean cast iron.
It's very easy to keep clean, and you just stay on top of it, and you can really do it. And another thing that's really nice in terms of recommending something like cast iron is that you can use it to cook on a fire, and it handles it, and it doesn't, things don't tend to burn really easily. So there's a lot of reasons why getting kind of used to it and starting to think about using some cast iron can be a good prepper thing, because those pans will be there,
Right.
you know. So that was just a few things in terms of the kitchen.
Okay. Next.
Yes, sanitation.
Sanitation can be a real serious issue. You know, I mean, especially in the city,
Yeah.
where there's so many people, and if the water stops, it can be a real mess really fast.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean, I don't know if everybody can find some kind of a little, you know, biodegradable, you know, off the grid little toilet to have in their house. You know, I don't know, but just you think about what would you do in terms of personal sanitation.
right. You know, do you live out in the country where you can dig an outhouse? You know, now for us, now if you have a septic system, most of the septic systems in our area have pumps that required to pump onto what we call a turkey mound. It's for the drainage field, and so if the power goes out, the septic system doesn't work either. But we are usually, I think it's unfortunate enough to be required to tie into city sewer, because we have to pay a sewer bill every month. But what that means is that we're not dependent on pumps for the sewer. And so I don't know what would happen down in the sewer plant down someplace. Quite frankly, that's not my problem. But our plan, or my plan for the toilet, is just to go down to the local stream where we're going to be getting our water anyway, and we can carry it back in buckets, and you can just pour water into the toilet tank, and then you can flush the toilet like normal.
Right.
And we would also use that water from the creek to bathe in. You just put it on the stove and heat it up, and then put it in the tub and take a bath.
Yeah,
But
and yeah.
But you need to think about, what are you going to do, especially about sewage and sanitation.
Right, and and realize that it wouldn't have to take that much water. You don't necessarily have to flush the whole thing just because there's a little bit of number one. You just, you can even do things like save the water that you just used to wash up with to flush with.
Right.
But just think about what are you going to do in terms of that, and how much toilet paper do you have, even just for a short-term breakdown of electricity or something like that, or a natural disaster that lasts for a little while. Do you have toilet paper?
And how much do you use? How much does your family use?
Right.
Keep inventory for a couple of weeks and see how much toilet paper your family uses in 2 weeks or in a month, so you can get an idea of how much you need to stock.
Right. And you might want to use it pretty carefully if we were in emergency situations, but it'd be awfully nice to know you've got it. So that's just a good thing to keep some ahead.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And personal hygiene. We found out how long a tube of toothpaste lasts.
We each have our own tube of toothpaste because we like different brands.
Right, we like different kinds.
I can't stand the one she uses. So for myself personally, I always buy the larger family-sized toothpaste. And what I did was I wrote the date on the back of the day that I started using it to see how long it would last me. And when I ran out, I checked the date on the back, and I found that for just one person, for me, using the large family-sized toothpaste, it was 1 week short of 6 months. So that means if I got my one tube and then I have 2 extra tubes in storage, then I have anywhere from 12 to 18 months of toothpaste.
Right. And if you needed to use just little bits at a time, you could that way you're going to have it for a while. And this is just something to think about. If, like many people, it's wonderful to have nice, thick, fluffy washcloths and nice, thick, fluffy towels, I would consider going and just making sure you've got just a few really thin, cheap towels and thin, cheap washcloths. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you have to kind of wash them out by hand, or if your clothes washing situation becomes much more limited, they are going to dry a lot faster and be considerably easier to wash. And I live in a very humid climate, and I would not want stuff to be getting musty before it can even dry. So you just think in terms of it, what would really be easier in the long run to actually use on a practical everyday basis if you know you're going to be stringing a line up somewhere to hang it out, or your clothes washing is going to be a little more limited. Mm-hmm. Just as an idea.
So basically just walk into the bathroom, look around, open the mirror, look at your medicine chest, and see all the things that you use in the bathroom, all your toiletries, and are you prepared for that? Right. I mentioned toothpaste, shampoo, soap,
razors,
toilet paper, razors,
I don't know if it'd be world-ending if you ran out of deodorant, but if it would be for you, think about that.
Right.
Or learn how to make it out of other things. What would be really hard on you if you ran out of it? Some things are, I've got a perfume I just love. The world wouldn't end if I ran out of my perfume. But there's other things that I want to be able to brush my teeth. And there's things that you just need to take care of. If you have babies, are you set up to use cloth diapers? How many diapers do you have ahead? For women's needs, just think about, what do I use and what would happen if I couldn't buy it at the store? Do I have as much as I need to at least last for a while?
Are cloth diapers even available anymore? Can you still buy them?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You can buy cloth diapers.
When our kids were babies 30 years ago, disposable diapers were certainly around, and a lot of people used them all the time, like most people do now. But we only used them when we were out. We used cloth diapers at home, and then we go out to church or we go out somewhere, then we'd put the disposables on because they were easier. But we saved a lot of money by using the cloth diapers. But nowadays, if you mention cloth to most young moms, they look at you like you're a Neanderthal, and totally, completely unsanitary. And what in the world are you talking about? Well, in the end of the world, you may have to go back to cloth diapers. So if you've got toddlers around, think about buying
little guys. Yep.
Even if you don't have to use them, just keep them on the shelf. Figure out how to pin them on.
Yeah, figure out how to use it. Get yourself some nice little plastic pants. Realize that they can be washed. When I lived in a very cold climate, I used to hang the diapers out in the wintertime, and they would they'd sublimate. They would freeze and then dry, and they came out just fine. Keep vinegar on hand. That's just a good thing. Vinegar is wonderful for cleaning things. It's also really, really good for really freshening things like diapers. Even if you end up putting some water in a bathtub and sloshing them around and washing them, it can be done. But just, just think about how would you approach it with anybody still in a diaper age if you could not buy them at the store anymore. Absolutely. And then medications. That used to never be something I'd even think about, but doggone it, now I'm supposed to stay on this stuff. So, blood thinner and sorts of things. So, if you've got medication, think about, is there some way you can maybe get a little bit ahead on the medications? I know some places will deliver like 3 months supplies. Just it's a good thing to talk to your doctor about. How can I get a little bit ahead on these? I know that can be tricky with insurance. I'm trying to just figure out the best thing that I can for that. But just your prescription drugs. Just think about maybe being able to have some ahead.
That can be a real difficult thing, and that's something we haven't really figured out how to do yet. You've got like 6 weeks ahead, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's about all I've been able to do so far. And you know what? If the time comes that I just cannot get my hands on the medicine anymore, I just trust the Lord. I mean, what else can I do? I'm just going to trust Him. But just think in terms of having that ahead, as much as you can anyway, or figure out somewhere where maybe there'd be some source that would work out. Over-the-counter stuff, if it's really not a bad idea to have for one thing, the whole idea of a first aid kit. My goodness, we've got to make sure that we've got some things around where if we need bandages or we need something to disinfect wounds or we need, painkiller, just a lot of things like that, have a first aid kit. That's a good idea for anybody, but you definitely need to do that, and just think about maybe having some extra of the things you would really need. If you go crazy with allergies, maybe you want to have some extra allergy medicine. Just watch out for expirations on them to the best you can.
Right.
Even for short term, even if you can't go long term, be prepared for short term. It could be really worth it.
Next.
Yeah, absolutely next. And then we have, of course, Schnickel Fritz here.
Do you have any pets? Have you thought about taking care of your pets? You might just have to go out and buy that 55-gallon drum of goldfish food. I mean...
Yeah, now I don't know any other... with pet food, what we've tried to do is keep, of the big bags of the food that he eats, keep, two ahead. What did we figure out? We ended up with, a year supply or something like that, just to try to make sure, because if push comes to shove, I can give him little nibbles and bits of things, but I'd like to be able to give this cat food if I possibly can.
Some animals eat from the table all the time and some don't at all.
Right, ours doesn't. Our cat's never had anything but his cat food. And am I going to have him go outside or am I going to have some litter? Just think about your pets and what you might need for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Transporting goods. If there's no gasoline available, you're not going to be able to drive, obviously.
Right.
You can get a horse.
Well, if you got somewhere to feed it.
But what works for me is a bicycle. I ride my bicycle a lot anyway. I ride it, thousands of miles over the course of years.
Yeah, he really does.
But I'm going to be using it for transporting goods. Now, we're still working on our system. We don't have it all completely done. We still got some holes in it. This is one place where I have a hole in our system. But what I want to get is a trailer that goes behind the bicycle.
We're doing it as soon as we can.
And the one that I'm looking at is called a Bob, B-O-B, which is Beast of Burden. It has one wheel instead of two, so you can ride it down a single-track trail. And I would use that to ride down to the creek to fill up probably 2 5-gallon buckets of water and bring it back, because carrying a 5-gallon bucket of water 3/4 of a mile, it would be doable, but it wouldn't be very fun. So I can use the bicycle trailer once I get it, hopefully soon, to be able to transport water, and also to be able to take it out into the woods and cut firewood and be able to haul firewood back. Otherwise, you're going to be trying to haul firewood in a backpack or something.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier if you can strap it, bungee it down to a bicycle trailer and take off with it that way.
or if nothing else, just have something, you know, whether it's the little red wagon or something. Just think about how could you transport things like getting the wood if you need it, or water, or just taking something somewhere if you don't have gasoline for your car.
Right.
You know.
Sorry, everybody. It looks like this video is going a little bit longer than we thought
Yeah,
it would. We
yeah.
just got so much stuff that good stuff that we want to tell you. So we've decided to break it into part 3.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and let these be 2 more workable sizes.
Yeah, that way you can take them in bite-sized pieces, and
Yes.
hopefully you can absorb a little bit more. So if you're enjoying what we're talking about, please join us then on part 3
Part 3.
to how to start prepping.
And not to be formulaic, but if you like it, like and subscribe. And we love you guys and live simple, live free. Okay.
There you go. See you on part 3.
Okay.
Bye.